laptops in Lisa Maclaro, but I have already distributed the copy of the file in our group chat and also included it in our class. So this afternoon, our topic will be about the approaches to language teaching, the present day teaching methods. So these methods are the different ways of helping students learn a new language effectively. We have seven. First, let's have the objectives. The objective for this afternoon is students must be able to explain the different language teaching methods, and students must be able to differentiate the language teaching methods. So first, let us start with the first method, which is the grammar translation method.
So the grammar translation method is a method of learning any foreign language by the practice of translating or converting the sentences of the native language into the target language or vice versa. So in translation method, it is a traditional approach to language learning by focusing on the memorizing the grammar rules and vocabulary from the specific sentences. So in this method, students are taught language by memorizing the grammar rules and vocabulary list, and then translating them or translating the sentences or passages back and forth between the native language and the target language. So the emphasis is on accuracy, writing exercises, and understanding the structures of a language rather than on speaking. So lessons typically involve reading literary text and then translating them word for word and translating them word for word. For example, the students are reading about Red Riding Hood, and then their native language is, which is English, and their target language is Spanish. So first, they list those words, and those words are pretty, old, bad, neat, girl, grandmother, and wolf. So pretty, old, bad, these are adjective words, while girl, grandmother, and wolf are the nouns. So first, they translate this to Spanish. So pretty means bonita, old means bella, bad means malo, niña means girl, abuela means grandmother, and loco means wolf. So in Spanish, the noun and adjectives could be feminine and masculine. If the noun ends with A, it is feminine, while if it is ends with O, it is masculine. So you should also connect the feminine noun to the adjective feminine. So for example, niña means girl, so it should be niña bonita. There's a rule in Spanish. Adjectives comes first, then the noun. So while in English, adjectives first and noun. While in Spanish, adjectives comes after the noun. So in English, it could be pretty girl, but in Spanish, it could be girl pretty, which means niña bonita. So second, which is the edulingual lessons, is a method which emphasizes the teaching of listening and speaking before reading and writing. It uses dialogue as the main form of language presentation and the drills as the main training technique. So in this method, it is a language teaching approach. We're focusing on developing listening and speaking. So it is rooted on behaviorist theory, where it emphasizes learning through habit formation. So the grammars are taught inductively, which could mean that students can pick up rules through examples. For example, when we were in grade 7 or in the elementary, we had dialogues in the book that we could read aloud. So sometimes the teacher would help us work in pairs, even if groups to read the dialogue perfectly. Then different pairs would take turns reading aloud, and the teacher corrected our pronunciation and emphasize the correct rhythm and intonation. This continues until we become familiar with the intonation or the sounds and will say the sentences smoothly. So the edulingual method is similar. It focuses on repeating dialogues and phrases until students materially learn the correct pronunciation and structure. That's what
Now, let's proceed to cognitive code learning or cognitive code approach. The cognitive code learning was advocated by cognitive psychologists and applied linguistics John Carl and Kenneth Chastain in the 1960s. When we say cognitive code learning, it is about learning languages through focusing rather on understanding and thinking about the language rather than repeating phrases or sentences. In a cognitive code lesson, you might first see the examples and then listen to how they're used, and then later on, the teacher will explain its rules. This is what we call the inductive learning. In the inductive learning, you learn through patterns and examples, and then the teacher will explain the rules after that. This believes that understanding the why behind the grammar is important in learning a language. So for example, I will have a scenario. So imagine a scenario. The aim of the class is for students to learn that the past form of the regular verbs is by adding ed. So for example, visit to visited, played, or walk to walked. So the teacher would then start the class by sharing a short dialogue or a short story about the past event. And then the students would read along the example of the teacher and would notice the several verbs that are used in the example. And she will then ask the students about what they have noticed on the verbs that are used in the examples. After that, she will then explain the rules why certain verbs are used like that. After that, and lastly, she will then let the students practice it in a meaningful context. So in this approach, this clearly shows that the cognitive code learning encourage students to actively think and analyze the language rather than memorizing and repeating. And now let's move on to the direct method. The direct method was developed as a response to grammar translation method because the grammar translation method was seen as ineffective for some students because it didn't develop their speaking and understanding of the language. Rather, the direct method was based on the idea that learners should learn the second language or new languages in a similar way to how they acquired their first language. To simply explain the direct method, it is a way of learning languages by jumping right into it without translating from your native language. So instead of explaining rules in your own language, the teacher would only use the target language in the class. So for example, your native language is Korean, and then the target language in the class is English. The teacher would only use the target language, which is English. This means that as a student, we learn through listening, speaking, using visuals like pictures or real-life objects to better understand the language. So it's like how we learn our first language, right? We learn by hearing it from our parents without using or without reading the translation. So for example, imagine you're learning the word apple. So instead of explaining the word apple in your language or in your native language, the teacher might hold up a real apple in front of you and would say apple out loud and then have you repeat it. They might then ask you, is this an apple or an orange? Of course, the students would respond apple. Over time, this way of learning the language, you pick up new phrases and words that are used in real life situations. So as learners, we learn the language by seeing pictures, listening to the teacher, and repeating what we hear. In this way too, we start thinking directly in English, making it easier for us to speak and understand the language. So that is all from my report. Please welcome Ms. Francine Mae Diamante.
Good afternoon, everyone. Our next method would be the natural approach. Natural approach is a method of language teaching developed by Tracy Carroll and Stephen Gratian. This focuses on creating a low-stress environment where language learning allows learners to pick up language naturally by listening and comprehending. So this type of approach focuses on comprehension and communication. or she encourages them to listen and understand. Later, the teacher might ask simple questions like, where is the cat? As the students become more comfortable. So this approach lets the students learn language at their own pace. Like they learn it naturally. This method mirrors how we learn our first language through exposure to our environment. By focusing on comprehension and gradually introducing speaking, students acquire the language naturally without pressure to immediately produce it. So again, this approach mirrors the way children learn their native language. The next method would be the total physical response, a method of language teaching created by writer, researcher, and professor on psychology, Dr. James Usher. So this method combines language learning with physical actions to reinforce understanding. The teacher gives commands and learners respond with physical action. So in this method, physical interaction is being focused. It is based on the idea that pairing language with actions helps learners understand and remember words better, especially for beginners or young learners. So to better understand, let's imagine a situation like in a class, the topic is all about action words. For the teacher she or he will teach these action words to also combining it with presenting the action. For example, the teacher says sit or stand and jump, and he partners these words with the action. Through this, and then we ask the students to do it. The teacher will say the word. However, in the next thing that will happen is that the students will do or perform the action. This way, students learn vocabulary and phrases by associating them with movements, making it easier to remember the words and understand their meaning without needing translation or complex explanation. This type of method is a fun and interactive way to learn language, which is good for young learners. The next method will be introduced by Miss Caila Macasaysay.
So the next topic for today is about Suggestopedia and Suggestopedia. So Suggestopedia and Suggestopedia is a method developed in 1970s by a Bulgarian psychiatrist educator named Georgi Lonsanov on 1926. I was born in 1926 and died on 2012. So first, let us discuss what is Suggestopedia. So, Suggestopedia is a teaching method and considered to be one of the heuristic approaches in which students learn quickly by being made to feel relaxed, interested, and positive. So, Suggestopedia is a teaching method that using a calm and positive environment to help students learn without stress. So, the goal of Suggestopedia is to make the students feel relaxed and so they can learn better and remember more. But how does it work? So Suggestopedia works when the teacher creates a calm and positive environment using some or creating some engaging or friendly activities to make the students feel comfortable and to make the students feel less nervous about learning. So, one of the fundamental principles of this method is that if the students are relaxed and confident, they will not need to try hard to learn the target language. It will come naturally and easily. Next, so nasabot na to? Ang Suggestopedia. So next, let's proceed to the Suggestopedia. So the suggest is the opposite of suggest. It is used to eliminate the negative feeling. So, this Disagestipedia is similar to Suggestipedia, but it focuses more on removing or disadjusting fears and doubts about learning. So, the goal of Suggestipedia is to help the students feel confident and remove the negative thoughts or about removing their nervousness or something negative about themselves or the ability to learn by having a fear. So, ang kalahian or the difference between Suggestipedia and Disagestipedia is that Suggestipedia focuses on making the students feel relaxed about learning, while Disagestipedia is focusing about removing the negative or the fear or the doubt of the student about learning. So, yeah, it has been developed to help students eliminate the feeling that they cannot be successful or the negative association they may have towards studying, and thus to help them overcome the barriers to learning. So, the one basic or common example of Disagestipedia is that, like, if Mr. Shan answered my question incorrectly, and then if I were going to use Disagestipedia method, kaya I will di ba nag-answer siya incorrect. So, ang feedback na ko dapat, oh, you're getting there or your answer is ganang close. Pero kada itong feedback or respond nga dili maka-offend, like hugok kay ka, grabe ka, di na mo answer. So, yeah, dapat negative ang kay it will, yeah, that is Disagestipedia. So, yeah. Sabot ka? Yes, ma'am. We as a future educator, we should remember this quote by Knight or statement by Knight 2001. So one of the teacher's main roles is to see that she or he creates the right environment for the students in which they find it easy to learn. So we as a future educator, we must be mindful or we must be aware of what we impart or what we respond to our students, because it will bring a great impact to them. Okay, if muhatag ka mga negative feedback sa ila, kay syempre malus jud ang confidence. Same sa ato English major. Di ba sige tag inon nga bulok jud tag math. So ato believe na to nga. Grabe bulok ni math. Like inig maka atubang tag math hala English major mini jud mi answer ana. Di ba? O jud na impart. But then dapat na ay isa ka teacher or na teacher nga mo associate na to or mo motivate nga kaya na to makasolve og math kay English ba yung instruction. So dapat kaya lagi na to, pero English major lagi ta.
That is an object excuse.
Yeah. So nasabot niya ang Disagestipedia. Yes?
Kan Suggestipedia and Suggestipedia all can use all at once.
Yes, it is different but interconnected. Because similar naman ang Disagestipedia, but Disagestipedia is more focuses lang siya sa removing negative thoughts. Pero nagyapon siya aim nga muhatag og kanang positive impact or to make the student feel relaxed, diba? So yeah, it has a connection.
How can it be like?
How it can affect. So, I'll give an example. Is that for example, I am a teacher, and then I have a student na grabe ang iyang fear nga gidala. Dayon, wala siya confidence. So, as a teacher, I was gonna make her or him feel relaxed while I'm discussing. Pero, I'm also make her or him feel that he can or she can. Nga, mahatag na ako nga ang ganang ma-confident siya sa yourself, like having the confidence in her or him or waking the confidence inside of him or her. Okay? So, like, interconnected siya, making the student feel relaxed and making him confident at the same time, and removing the negative thoughts about kuan. Answer na yung question. Answer. Okay. Now ba? What's the right question? So, that is the end of our homework.
Okay.